Okay, today we are playing a game on Route 66. We are in the Silver SR range, and we will be playing Toes the entire way through. I believe we are also on the console today, but I'm not 100% certain on that. It's mostly based off the fact that there's underscores in the name, and it looks like console aiming. The email also said that we are very new to the game, and this kind of game in general, so I'm going to attempt to be as thorough as possible. So it might get a little tedious in places. So let's start the game. So we're defending first. We're playing Toes. We're pretty far up already. We don't want to defend this far up on the track. There's a couple reasons for that. First off, killing the enemy team outside of their spawn doesn't really get you a huge amount, to be honest, because the effect of killing somebody right outside their spawn is they are dead. 10 seconds later, they respawn. They walk back out the door. They're exactly back where they were again. If you play around a choke point further up the map, and it takes you, like, 6 seconds to get there, then suddenly killing someone, instead of gaining 10 seconds from them respawning and coming out of the door, you've gained 16 seconds, because they had to respawn 10 seconds and then get back to the fight. 6 extra seconds. So you get a little bit more value out of a kill the further away they are away from their spawn when you kill them, because they have to get back to where they were to begin with. But the more important reason is that this is just not a very good place to defend from, because it's very much in the enemy's favor to be attacking from this position, because they've got all that cover that they can use over there. They got all this shit that they can use as cover. You can use that as cover if they really want, and they can just duck into their spawn again to heal, no problem, and they can even shoot at you from the doorway if they're a long enough range hero. And you can't really see it from our current camera angle, but it's a huge open expanse behind us that doesn't really have any cover on it except for, like, the tunnel on our right-hand side behind us, and that's it. So if we end up in a bad spot, there's no cover for us to use. We have to run all the way back to the corner to actually get into cover again, and that's not very good. So the terrain massively favors them. For Route 66, what we specifically do is stand on top of the gas station, or right at the corner in front of the gas station to, like, poke at the enemy team as they're approaching. And then we use the archway in front of it to defend from. If we go back, we'll actually see that. We usually defend from, like, right around this line, or on top of the gas station. The gas station also has the benefit of being on top of that, you're on high ground, so, which is just naturally beneficial. Any kind of, like, first-person shooter situation, controlling high ground is good. And then you've got things that you can use as cover, because if you stood here and you're in a bad spot, that's all the retreating you had to do. But if you're up here and you're in a bad spot, you've got to go all the way back over here, or all the way back into the tunnel to get to safety. Either way, you've got a long way to go back. So that's why we don't want to defend all the way up there. Now, our teammates are going to stand up here anyway, as we can see, because Roadhog's doing that. And if your teammate's going to do stupid stuff, you kind of have to come and do stupid stuff with them a lot of the time. But that's the reason we don't want to be this far up, defending right here. But it's where we are right now. Shield's currently low. We've got to let it regenerate. We don't want to put it back up when it's that low health, and we really don't want to let it break. This is true for both Sigma and Reinhardt. You don't want to let your shield break ever, because when it's broken, it goes on a cooldown before you can reactivate it again. And you don't want to ever be in a position where you're unable to use your shield, because even a 1 health shield will block an entire D.Va explosion, right? Or it'll stop, like, McCree's bullet from killing you, from Deadeye, stuff like that, right? So you don't want to ever be in a position where your shield is flat out not accessible to you. So you always want to take it down before it actually gets broken. This is true for Toes and Sigma. Toes and Reinhardt, because their shields work the same way, where it regenerates while it's not currently active. This also means that you want to be taking it down whenever you can to, like, get any recharge at it possible, because we don't need to have it up right now, because we've actually, like, won the fight at this point. As we can see in the kill feed, like, half their team's dead. So we don't have to have our shield up right now. We're not really blocking too much. We could just let it be regenerating that whole period right there. Again, we didn't need to put it up right there in front of that guy. He's asleep, so he can't do anything to us. And even if you don't have it up for very long, you take it back down again, that still reset the shield regenerating again. So even if you put it up for like half a second, that resets all progress you were making towards it regenerating. So, or the regeneration starting would be a better way to put that. So you don't want to have it up when you don't need to. It doesn't need to be up right now either, because it's not actually blocking anything right now. The entire enemy team ran around this way. So the shield, this whole time, it's not taken any damage that we were doing this. 454. This entire time. And then now it's finally taken damage again. The shield could be basically full health again if we took it down the entire period of time that that was happening. We don't want to, like, chase people down this hallway regardless, though, because what this is, us doing this has done, is this has isolated us from our teammates. Because suddenly, our healers can't see us, our teammates can't see us, if we get into a bad spot in this hallway. Because what the enemy team should do now is turn around and kill us, because we've just isolated ourselves. So, and our teammates now, we're cut off from them, so they have to go more out of their way to get to us if anything bad happens to us. The enemy team doesn't turn around to do anything to us, so we end up not being punished in that regard. But our team also did lack us as the front line, because we're the main tank for our comp. Roadhog's the off tank. So us doing that, like, the way they're going, there's only one way they can ever possibly approach from, going through the mine, and that's the back behind us. So us chasing after them like that, ideally our teammates are stood roughly near us, right? So if we break off to chase off after them like that, and our teammates don't follow us, they're just going to be fighting here, where they'll just be fighting right around, I mean, fucking draw instead of pointing with my hand. They'll be fighting like right around here without us as the enemy team's approaching behind them. And we don't want that to be the case because we're the frontline main tank. So, not really let's not overcomplicate things. We're the main tank. So our teammates suddenly being without us as the enemy team's approaching is not good. Now, as we can see, we've been unpunished in this regard. We didn't get collapsed on. We're winning this team fight anyway. You know, it's kind of close, but we're ending up losing it now. But the team fight wasn't like a resounding failure, right? So we didn't get overly punished in that regard, but we did still make the mistake in chasing after them regardless for two different reasons. So, anyway, we've still got time to get back again. They still have to push the payload pretty far before they'll actually capture the checkpoint. So we'll get to fight over it again right at the end, as long as our teammates aren't, like, all dead by the time we arrive here. And they aren't, so that's nice. This is not a good shield position, because the majority of the enemy team is over here, right in front of us right now. So we're blocking Roadhog by putting it over there, and that's leaving, like, 4 people exposed to our right who just have a clear line of sight to us this entire time. So what would be better to do in this position is, it's already like an awkward angle to be approaching from, but a better thing to do is just immediately turn and deploy our shield over this way, because that's where most of the enemy team is. And like, even now, we see like Genji's here, Roadhog's here. Roadhog just used his hook, so he's already dramatically less scary for the next 10-ish seconds. How long is Roadhog's hook cooldown? This is something that I should know offhand, but I don't, so I'm going to look it up rather than say a number and then somebody goes, "That's not the number, you fucking idiot." I'm sorry, I was off by 1 second, how dreadful of me. The cooldown is 8 seconds. Okay, I was going to say 9, so thank goodness. Whew, nobody can laugh at me today. So he's less scary for the next 8 seconds. The rest of the enemy team is much scarier right now. And we've managed to... our teammates are healing us. Roadhog just missed his hook again, just went in front of us. We don't have to worry about him a little bit. This is good. We're dancing through our shield as we're fighting right now, which is good to do. Both Toes and Orisa benefit greatly from being able to shield dance in the middle of the fight. Roadhog's using, not Roadhog, Junkrat's using his ultimate right now, so the enemy team's gonna back off in response to that. He got Zen, didn't manage to get Roadhog, but getting Zen is already pretty good as far as it goes. Blocking the D.Va right now isn't particularly exciting, because the D.Va's not really in her optimal range, like she's pretty far away. And we're only blocking for ourselves by putting our shield up at this D.Va right now. Instead of doing that, we can just walk, like, to the side a little bit and use the payload as cover instead. And then we can just, like, peek the corner to throw our projectile at or peek back again. And then our shield can be regenerating during that period of time as well, instead of putting it up to just block for ourselves when we could stand around a corner. And that will achieve the same thing without us needing to put our barrier up, thereby costing us some of our resource. So we've got Gravitic Flux built up again now. Zenyatta has his ultimate. We haven't seen him use it, like, this entire time. So when we use Gravitic Flux, if he hasn't used his ultimate, he's going to use it on Gravitic Flux. That's not necessarily the end of the world, because then he just doesn't have it to use for the next ultimate instead, but hey, he's using it right now to, like, engage this team fight that they're probably going to win without it. So hey, now we don't have to worry about Transcendence for our ultimate. They ran at us and a few of them pushed Q, so life is hard like that. Genji used Dragon Blade, Roadhog used his ultimate, and Zen used his ultimate as well. There was they were going to have to fuck up to lose that team fight, basically, or someone on our team was going to have to play extremely well. Neither of which happened. Whatever. So something I haven't said this whole time is that we've got a Bastion on our team, so we do want to be trying to block for the Bastion as much as we possibly can. So we should be, like, figuring out where, Bastion is and trying to block for him, because he's going to be most likely the way that we win this game. Again, shield's about to break, we should have took this down sooner, shield broke, we don't want to let it break. We've got Gravitic Flux built up. We do want to use it before Zen gets his ultimate up again, because that's going to be the thing that makes us sad. We would have been justified using it at most points during this exchange, to be honest with you. They just lost their Mercy, so now is, like, time where we're looking to use it immediately, basically, because we know Zen doesn't have Trance, because we just saw him use it a minute ago, and now Mercy's dead. Mercy's their main healer. Zen is not going to be able to heal multiple people after we catch them in Gravitic Flux, unless he has his ultimate, which we know he doesn't. So with their main healer being dead, like, honestly, right now, I immediately push Q and just slam those 3 people on the payload right now. And that's going to be good enough to, like, completely kill this push, and then we start to be able to set up a defense. If we didn't use it then, you know, we can use it at any point during here. Roadhog just used his ultimate, or not his ultimate, his hook. We do have to be kind of concerned about getting crowd controlled out of our ultimate, because if we start using it and get crowd controlled before we push, or before we activate our ultimate, activating the ultimate, you know, the second part, because you activate it, you start floating, and then you designate the spot, and then you use it. So if we get hooked before we've designated the spot, we're sad. But he's just used it, so now we totally don't have to worry about that. Mercy's still not back, Zen still doesn't have Trance. So if we were concerned about getting hooked previously, now it's completely free. Now, however, self-destruct's happening in front of us, so we wait for that to be over. And we could now immediately use Gravitic Flux again after that, now that that threat's removed as well. So we could have used Gravitic Flux multiple times during here, but I use it as soon as I see Mercy dies, basically, because at that point we've started winning the fight, and I want to continue winning the fight. Now, using Gravitic Flux like this, hey, we got there in the end, we killed 2 people with it. By this point, we don't really need to use it anymore, because we're probably already going to win. Because right now, we've lost Bastion, we can see in the kill feed. You don't need to look at, like, the spectator UI to figure this out. We look at the kill feed, we see Widow's dead, D.Va just lost her mech, and Genji's dead. D.Va's not really a hero when she's lost her mech. She's extremely fragile, and she's just trying to get her mech back again. So, effectively, 3 of their teammates are dead right now. Or 2.5, if you want to count, like, D.Va losing her mech is like half of her being dead, right? And we come out here, and we see this. This is already bad for them. And now they're purple, because Anna just splashed them. So now they can't even be healed. These boys are going to die without us using Gravitic Flux at this point. So we could save it by this point, rather than using it here, and save it for the next team fight instead. The next team fight, Zen's going to have his ultimate ready, because he didn't use it this entire period of time. So now we know he's going to have it for the next team fight. Zen has one of those ultimates where you can assume that if he didn't use it during a team fight, he has it for the next team fight. It builds up, like, roughly that fast, where, like, a fight's gonna give it to him. He might build it up during the first fight if he gets to shoot into, like, a Roadhog for a long time or something, but for the most part, you can assume he'll have it after one team fight. Lucio, kind of the same way. These are two ultimates to bear in mind, particularly when you're playing as Toes. Basically anybody with a big ultimate, because support ults, Trance, and Sound Barrier are for emergency situations, pretty much, where you're going to get hit by, like, Dragon Blade, Gravitic Flux, you're in Graviton, anything like that. So keeping track of, like, if the support used Sound Barrier or Transcendence is important, because it's the thing that's gonna, like, cockblock your ultimate. You don't have to worry about that too much as Toes, because you kind of just offer your ultimate a lot of the time to get the defensive ultimate out of the enemy team, and then someone like Genji is able to use their ultimate without having to worry about it, right? But if you're playing Toes and you saw Zen used his ultimate, or Lucio used his ultimate, and you've got your ultimate, you know now that you kind of want to try and use it before they get their ultimate up again. Because if you can use it while their defensive ultimate is down, you might just win the team fight off of that, because Gravitic Flux just half kills you when you get slammed on the ground. It does half your health. So, if you see they've used their ultimate, and you've still got yours, that's something you can try and do to, like, win the team fight, is use your ultimate before they build their ultimate back up again. So, Zen's just used his ultimate again, right there. He's using it now, like, to cover his Roadhog using his ultimate, I guess. So, now we know that if we build our ultimate up in the next, like, team fight or so, we know we can use it without worrying about his. So I've gone back here, because we look at the Mercy over there, which is, you know, this is an understandable thing to do. We see Mercy over there and we want Mercy dead. That's fair enough. But we're playing the tank right now, and what we just saw, also, was we saw Roadhog go this way. And he's not come back out again. So, Roadhog's probably going up behind us right now, and we're currently playing the tank, so we have to try and keep our teammates alive. If Roadhog goes behind us around that corner and finds Ana or Moira and hooks them, he might just kill them, right? So we want to try and block that and prevent our teammates from, like, getting killed behind us, more than we want to worry about, like, trying to catch this Mercy. Because, you know, it's understandable to want her dead, but we should be more concerned about the Roadhog, who is trying to, like, swing round to our back line, because we're playing the tank. We have to worry about keeping our teammates alive. So, Genji's using Dragon Blade right now behind us. He's killed Ana, and he's killed Moira. We just lost both our supports. And when you lose both your supports really early on in a team fight, you're pretty fucked. You're extremely unlikely to win the team fight at that point, unless you have, like, a lot of ultimates to compensate, the enemy team fucks up, or someone on your team plays really well. Because once you've lost both your supports, you've got no sustain during the team fight anymore, so the enemy team is basically just gonna, like, whittle you down, if nothing else, if your supports can't get back in time, which is unlikely in, like, that kind of situation. So that's one of those things. You see your supports die early on, you're pretty fucked. So we should just give up on it at this point. There's no way we save this checkpoint. All our teammates are dead. Like, the entire enemy team except for Mercy is alive right now. There's no way we stop them from capturing this checkpoint as Toes, unless we, like, they have to, like, really badly fuck up, which is not gonna happen. All that happens here is we die as well. So now we have to respawn again, get back to the front line. This in and of itself is bad, because now we're spending time off the map that we could have avoided, because now we have to go through this whole respawn period, now we have to regroup with our teammates again, so this is them getting a lot of free time off of us being dead right now, when we could have avoided that death. And there's another thing to that as well. We just fed the enemy team 400 damage with a ult charge. This is something you have to bear in mind when you're playing a tank, is you're the primary source of the enemy team building ult charge, because you've got the most hit points, you're gonna get, like, healed through damage that you're taking. You're gonna feed the enemy team a lot of ult charge. Toes doesn't worry about this as much as like someone like Roadhog or Diva does. A serious consideration you have to make when you're playing Roadhog and Diva is how much ult charge am I giving the enemy team, because those are two like big ult battery heroes for the enemy team. Toes doesn't have to worry about this so much, but that was 400 damage worth of ult charge we gave the enemy team that we could have just avoided instead. So right now we started defending like before our teammates were really with us. It took a while for them to actually like get out here with us. They were kind of off fighting on the side, so we could have stayed back a little bit and saved our shield charge and waited for them to actually group up behind us before we came out to start defending in that hallway. But it didn't matter, as we can see, and like I always say, if you don't get punished, you don't have to learn, dude. This is a fine place to defend on this checkpoint because there's lots of cover to use around us, and the enemy has to funnel through this narrow choke point at us, so this is fine to defend here on this checkpoint. It's usually what we do on this map, is defend from this position. Sometimes you can't stand this far up. I should actually, like, draw, you know, instead of, like, pointing with my hand like a fucking dumbass. Sometimes you can't stand, like, right here, because the enemy team is able to, like, pump a lot of damage into you. And if they're, like, long range, they can stand outside of this door, because it doesn't close, and just funnel damage into you while you're defending here. So sometimes defending here isn't a very good idea, depending on if the enemy team is very long range. So if they've got, like, Soldier, McCree, Junkrat, those kinds of people, defending here is not always super easy to do. In which case, we'll, fall back a little bit and start defending from roughly around here instead, because then the enemy team have to expose themselves to us to actually start taking damage, right? They have to get a lot closer to us to see us in that position. Whereas if we're over by the ramp, they can see us outside the door that doesn't close. If we're stood there, they have to come around the corner to start fighting us, which means they're a lot closer to us, which is not what the long-range teams want to be doing. So that's what we'll do. If the enemy team is like this team comp they've got right now, Reaper, Genji, they aren't pumping out a lot of long-range damage, so it's fine to stand where we were standing a second ago. But if they're more like Soldier, Junkrat, then you want to stand around the corner, because then they have to come up the ramp to start hitting you, and then they're a lot closer to you, and they don't want to be. We were slow to reposition our shield here, because they started coming that way around sooner, so we were a little slow to reposition our shield there, but again, it didn't matter, didn't get punished, don't have to learn. And there's a lot of cover for our teammates to use regardless, so it's like fine. What I do want to point out right here is that we actually brushed right up against this Reaper. Reaper's actually right in our... This is Reaper, we're looking through one of his arms right now. We're looking at Genji right now, which is understandable, but that would have been a good time to, like, throw our rock at Reaper, since he's right on top of us, or use Kinetic Grasp, since he's, like, right on top of us, and presumably going to shoot into us at that point, so we'd be able to block some damage coming in from him. He ended up not really doing that, he was shooting at someone past us, but that would have been a good time to do one of those things. And then we tried to reposition to use Gravitic Flux, you know, team fights happening at that point, fair enough, understandable. Team fight's still happening. It's not exactly going well for them, but it's not exactly going well for us either. So we could have extended our shield way sooner than this, because as soon as like we come around this corner, Toes, like, you can send your shield infinitely far. So as soon as we get here, we can aim right around this spot and just extend our shield all the way over to the team fight, thereby contributing to the team fight before we've actually arrived to it, because we've managed to send our shield over. It might not be in, like, an ideal place, because we can't exactly aim it super precise from there, but something's better than nothing, right? And we saw Reaper coming, fucking threw a rock at him, he's upset, good stuff. Now we have to attack. They got it not too far into the third checkpoint. That's kind of the big thing for me on Route 66, because the third checkpoint is extremely difficult to attack, because it's one long hallway. I'm not sure why we decided to just suddenly come around this other doorway. I guess we were afraid of getting shot as we were coming out by, like, Widow over here. Could just extend our shield really on. Toes can reposition his shield, like, pretty easily. Not as easily as he could previously. They nerfed it a little bit, but he can extend his shield really easily. So, like, we could have just, like, blocked it as we're coming out, or, like, step forward, use Kinetic Grasp as we're going out if we're, like, afraid of getting shot from him. What we did right, or from her, rather. What we did right there was just take a really long time to get out the doorway right at the start, which we don't want to do, really. This is my favorite trick extend the shield into the sniper's face to make them sad. We need to send it way further up to actually do that. Widow can shoot around that, as she does right there. But right now, that should be Winston dealing with that. Winston should be the one dealing with the Widowmaker. We should be more concerned with this front line area instead, and blocking that, because that's where the majority of the enemy team's damage is going to come from. And we should be letting Winston worry about the Widowmaker, because he's playing the Widowmaker counter. So we'd be justified in taking our shield down right now, because the lamp's currently active, so our teammates can't actually die right now. But if we put our shield up, the lamp stays alive longer, so that's cool and all. Baptiste didn't really put his lamp down in a very good time. We would be justified in, like, taking our shield down right there and just kind of, like, walking forward using kinetic grasp instead, because, like, the lamp is up, so that gives you a little bit of extra buffer room. But it's one of those things where, like, Baptiste didn't put it in a good spot, so we don't really have to worry about it that much, but it's worth pointing out. So, Moira's using her ultimate. You know, if we could have stopped her with the rock, that would have been cool, but it's very hard to stop Moira using her ultimate with Sigma's rock, sadly. It's a pretty slow projectile, and Moira gets to move faster while she's using Coalescence, so it tends to not be very easy to land that shot. But it's cool if you can. It's cool if you can, dude. D.Va's using self-destruct right now, so we gotta hide out of the way. Now it's gone, we can come back out again. So the enemy team just lost both their supports, we saw in the kill feed. So now we want to be, like, trying to press our advantage as much as we can, because like we said earlier, if your team's missing both its supports, you're extremely likely to lose that team fight. So we really, really want to push our advantage and, like, keep fighting right now, because any damage we do to them while their healer is gone is permanent damage, right? They're not going to heal that unless they have a self-heal, which no one on the enemy team really does right now, except for, like, Reaper, but he's got to, like, damage your team to do it. So if you ever see both the enemy supports died in the kill feed, try and press that advantage as much as you can, because they are at a dramatic disadvantage for the upcoming team fight. I'm going back right now, because Orissa's going up to attack our Bastion right now, because Bastion's up there. So we should have sent our shield up to block for the Bastion, or, like, more actively chased after this Orisa after this. We get the Mercy, so that's great, but Orisa was very determined walking in that direction. She's going for Bastion. We want to try and keep Bastion alive, so we should have extended our shield up to him to try and block Orisa while she's trying to kill him, because Bastion is, like, probably how we win most fights in this, right? Like, Bastion's one of our win conditions right now. So we should have tried harder to keep him alive right there. Either way, we're still winning this fight. Both their supports are dead again now, because we just killed Moira. Mercy died. She'll be getting back soon-ish, but she's dead right now. We used our ult right there. It seemed kind of weird to do it, but you can't hear the game. We heard Genji use Dragon Blade, so that's why we used Gravitic Flux, and that's fair enough. Didn't need to throw the rock at Mercy. We could have just kept shooting her, because she was, like, AFK staring into the wall. We could have just kept shooting at her instead of throwing the rock at her, but fairly nitpicky thing to worry about. We still killed her. That's the important thing. So even if, like, Gravitic Flux didn't kill Genji, by the way right there, he actually died by falling on Junkrat's passive, but even if it didn't kill him, we were so close to the end of the checkpoint that Gravitic Flux was going to lift him off the payload long enough for us to, like, touch the checkpoint with it. So that's something to bear in mind with Gravitic Flux. It will lift people off the payload. So if you're in overtime, you can lift them off of it, and sometimes they won't touch it again in time to stop losing the round. And if you're attacking and you're right at the checkpoint, you can lift them off of it and, like, capture the last meter or so. So that's a nice thing about Gravitic Flux, is if they have to be touching the payload, you can force them off of it, and sometimes that's enough to win you the round or the checkpoint. So Orissa's just used her ultimate. Moira's using her ultimate as well. We don't want to be, like, taking this damage on the chin right now, because Moira's using Coalescence while being damage boosted by Orissa's ultimate. So this is going to do a lot of damage to us, and it goes through shields. So we should be, like, tucking into cover right now. At which point, Moira has to try and chase after us if she wants to keep doing damage to us, or do no damage with Coalescence. And we should have taken our shield down during that period as well, because Coalescence is going to go through your shield. And that's the thing doing the majority of the damage right there. So we kind of went out of the way to get into cover right now. What I want to point out is we can go into cover without worrying about it too much right now, but I want to point this out just for completeness' sake. Like I said, I'm trying to be as thorough as possible right here. I'm trying to stop on a specific spot to show what I'm trying to point at as well. Right here. This circle on the ground. Right here. This is Batista's lamp. So while we're stood in this, we can't die. People wonder about this, especially if they're new. Will Baptiste Immortality Field save you from explosions like Self-Destruct, Pulse Bomb, Rip Tire? Yes, it will. It will put you down to the minimal cap, like it still does damage to you, but it will put you there, and then it kills the lamp. So if Self-Destruct is happening, Pulse Bomb, Rip Tire, anything like that, Baptiste's Immortality Field will save you from the explosion. You will still take the damage, but you're not going to die. It will drop you to the minimal for Immortality Field, but it won't kill you. Right there, we could duck into cover without going out of our way particularly, which is still better to do. Like, if you can get into cover, then do it, because then you don't take the damage from the explosion, whereas you will in the Immortality Field. But if you're not sure if you're going to be able to get to the cover or not, just stand in the Immortality Field. You'll take the damage, but you won't die, whereas if you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it, sometimes you won't make it, and then you're going to die, which will be very sad. So Reaper right here is telegraphing really hard what he's about to do, because if Reaper is Wraith forming in like this, he's almost certainly planning to ult. So what we should be doing right now is turning around and getting ready to try and hit him with our Rock Throw as he comes out of Wraith form, because he's almost certainly about to start using Death Blossom. You know, there's a timing thing associated with that, where we've got to try and get him as he's coming out of it, but because unfortunately, Sigma's got like a prep time to his crowd control, unfortunately, so you have to kind of like read it with that kind of thing. But we should have been trying right there, because if he gets like a Death Blossom off right there, he maybe wipes our team, which we don't want to happen. Didn't happen, nobody died, it's all good, you don't get punished, you don't have to learn, but that's what we should have been worried about right there, is stopping Death Blossom, because that's all a Reaper's planning to do. If he's Wraith forming into your team, almost certainly his plan is push Q as soon as I come out of Wraith form. Sometimes they don't, but they will be. Most of the time they will be. Especially in, like, silver, like, bronze through gold. They aren't thinking too deep into these things. They're planning to slap you. I'm thinking about this one because I'm like, I don't know exactly what our teammates are doing behind us. So, like, we probably don't need to use our shield for this, because the thing is with using our shield for this explosion is it does break the shield, right? And the self-destruct is not in a good position because the payload is obscuring most of its line of sight. Now, it's possible someone is behind us, like, right off to our right-hand side, and they're gonna die to the explosion. It's pretty unlikely. I wouldn't put my shield up for this one, just because the explosion is in such a bad spot. It's unlikely it's going to hit anybody on my team, and I could save my shield health instead, because it's like in such a cramped location. It's really unlikely somebody couldn't just like get line of sight on the payload to block it. It is of course more safe to put the shield up, because then you completely remove the possibility of someone dying from like this space where we're standing right now, but I consider the chance of that happening so low, I wouldn't have put the shield up. So we captured the checkpoint. The enemy team are like fighting over this. It's like, doesn't matter if we lose this team fight, because we've already captured this checkpoint. So if the enemy team invests resources defending right here, that's like free money for us, basically. Because then we're gonna respawn, come out the door in 10 seconds and fight them again in this spot, right? Like, them defending here isn't great. I went back here because this use of Kinetic Grasp is not very good, because D.Va's got her back to us. We can't, its hitbox isn't good enough that we're absorbing bullets through her right now. We actually did block a couple. I heard it. I did actually hear it block a couple through her. That's very surprising. Kinetic Grasp's hitbox is extremely bad. Never mind. We did actually block a couple shots through it. I heard them get blocked. So Winston blocked that one, still died to it, and good job, Winston, but whatever. So, we did actually block some shots with the Kinetic Grasp, so disregard. Hitbox is a little bit better than I thought it was. Genji's using Dragon Blade right now, that's really upsetting. I don't care, Because, again, they're using resources on this checkpoint that we've already captured, so whatever, dude. You use Dragon Blade right here. We already got it. No big deal. Look, we died, we come back out, we're back again. Hooray. We've got Gravitic Flux built up right now. Several of our teammates are dead. Half our team's dead right now, so we don't want to use Gravitic Flux. This is the kind of situation where, like, just dying faster is, like, pretty much preferable, because, like, we're gonna die. But it wasn't exactly lost by the time we were coming out the gates, so, like, getting involved in it isn't that bad, but, like, once it's very evident that you're going to lose a team fight, you should be either trying to disengage from the team fight if you can, and if you don't think you're going to be able to disengage, just die faster. Like, run into the enemy team, die faster, because the faster you die, the faster you regroup with your teammates, and the faster you can get, like, an actual push going again. If you know you're going to die, like, you're almost certain you're going to die, and there's a ledge nearby, throw yourself off the ledge. Because then the enemy team doesn't get to do damage to you when you kill yourself. So you're going to die, kill yourself, they don't get the ult charge from killing you. So if, like, we're fighting over by, like, the garage around the corner over there, you know, there's a ledge behind that. So if you get, like, isolated behind it and you're like, fuck, the whole enemy team's there, my whole team's dead, I'm fucked, just throw yourself off the edge. You deny the enemy team, like, 400 damage of ult charge. So, you know, they might laugh at you, Sigma threw himself off the map. It's the correct thing to do, because you deny the enemy team ult charge. Anyway, we've gotten some momentum going now. At this point, we're close enough that we can get ready to start using Gravitic Flux just to stop them from touching the point anymore. If it gets to it, because, like, we're really fucking close. The lamp is currently active, so we kind of want to break that first. So here's what I'm thinking right now is there's 2 lamps in front of us. One of them is the enemy team's lamp. I want to break that and then use Gravitic Flux. Because if the lamp is there and I slam them, the lamp is gonna save them if they would die. But if I break it first, then I can just slam them, and then we can try and capture this checkpoint as quickly as possible. Instead, we're, like, trying to put damage into the Steva. I focus solely on breaking the lamp so that I can use my ultimate faster. And now we should just use our ultimate. Like, there's no sense holding it. We want this to be our last team fight. Fucking throw it out there. If it looks like this has potential to be the last team fight, and you're gonna win or lose, regardless, doesn't matter. If this is maybe the last team fight, use your ultimate. Because you either are trying to stop it from being the last team fight, if you're on the bad side, or you want the fight to be over as quickly as possible, because it's the last team fight. So you just throw that boy out there. What we got on the YouTube algorithm today? Neryl's actually really good. I found out about him literally today. Very interesting videos. He has a video about motion controls, which was, like, changed my perspective on motion controls. Highly recommend. B-Mask's good. That's Neryl again. I follow Angry Joe. I don't know this one, but I will watch that one right after this. Errant Signal's really good. Video game essay kind of channel. Good stuff. I like some of Super Bunny Hop. And Noah Cladwell-Gervais. Very good, like, video essays about games, but they are all, like, at least an hour long, and some of them are, like, 3 hours long. So if you like long-form video essays, this is the place to go. He's, like, one of my favorite YouTubers, but they are extremely long videos. Anyway, so there wasn't anything specific in the email question-wise. Let me just check. I'm trying to be as thorough as possible again. First person PvP. Yeah, no, just like, I'm experienced, please help. Fair enough. I've tried to be as thorough as I can, so hopefully that's helpful. So yes, thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I've started streaming on Twitch Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 8 PM EST till midnight EST. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.